He's always had an eye for the ladies. Young ones as well. When I say young, I mean, you know, the proper age. 16 upwards. And he's always had one. His philosophy, he would never get married because I don't think he could stick with a person more than 3 days. And I don't think he can still stick it with anybody more than 3 days.
Is he right? When it comes to women, you've got a short attention span?
No, women know too much. I'm all for girls that don't know too much. It's a different class, you see. When you are single, it's because of some reason that you like being single. Jesus didn't find any problem with it. I don't find any problem with it. A lot of the time, people say, what? You're still single, you never got married. Why didn't you get married? The answer is, I haven't the faintest idea.
But we don't believe that Jesus was quite a ladies' man, though you are, or have said you were.
No. He used to knock about with the ladies. It says so in the book. He went in the Ucky house. He was talking to them in the Ucky house.
But
he was ducking and diving.
So you were like him too? You were doing the same
I'm not
thing?
like him at all. I'm just saying, another famous person. He's a famous person. He was single. It's good enough for him. It's good enough for me.
But do you get bored after 3 days with the same female company as your friend was saying?
I'd stay with them for the rest of it. They get bored with me. I'm a very boring fella.
But if they get bored with you, or you get bored with them, or whatever, we're talking about a life, are we, in the 60s and 70s of lots of lovers, lots of female company?
Oh, that's a long time ago. I've forgotten now.
You can't remember how many?
No, the marks I've got. Are there any marks there? I don't know.
No, they've healed rather well.
They're healed. Yeah.
But have you had lots of female
I would hope so, because being alive a long time, I would have hoped that one would have had lots and lots of them.
But
I've got this terrible... unfortunately, no, you see. I've got this... And anyway, I never have been a grass. And a gentleman never grasses on ladies as ever...
But we're not asking for names, we're just asking for the general principle.
Oh, so I mean...
We just want to know if you live this sort of playboy life of the DJ.
Yeah, give or take a few nice ladies. But I mean, you know, a gentleman doesn't ever speak of ladies. Well, I don't know where you come from. I mean, I don't know what your circles are, but my circles, ladies are very... You don't grass on them. No.
All my mother ever taught me was not to eat while I was talking, but that was another issue.
Bananas weren't around in those days.
All right, Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, let me just start by saying times are different. And, 16 years old is the age of consent, I believe, in the UK. But times are different. People used to marry when they were very young, and these are older men. So maybe there's something odd about this, or not odd about this for them, but it's odd when a person starts off and corrects their statement about you liking young ones and moves it to statutory age of consent. That should make you have an immediate odd impression of this person when one of his friends says that. Then when the guy talks about 3 days as the longest he would be with them, we do see something interesting. We see a real Duchenne smile with zygomatic muscles and the orbicularis muscles and a smooth forehead when he's talking about 3 days. And he does kind of I can't believe he remembered that. So he probably did say that. I can't stick with anybody more than 3 days. But then there's surprise in his face, which probably is like, I'm surprised he remembers this. One of the ones here that makes me not trust this guy and really believe all this happened is when he says something about women knew too much. I'm for girls. There's no humor in his face when he does this. What we're going to find is the fool in the humor is a way of pushing things away. He doesn't here. Is this a confession? He talks about them being in a different class. And part of what he's accused of has to do with people who were not altogether there, who were institutionalized, situations like that. So it's pretty bad. Then he goes to high ground. And when you take moral high ground, and you try to compare yourself to somebody, Jesus is not a good choice. You don't take the highest ground and say, hey, Andy hung around in brothels. But with what you're doing, and you'll see this in your day job, what you're doing when you associate with someone who has that marked status is you're trying to take that status for yourself. People who live in Princeton who assume they're smart because they live near the university are those kind of folks. What he's doing here is a couple of things. We talked about gaslighting in the beginning, where he is using something to make it so large that it goes away. He's also using humor to smokescreen what's actually going on. And I think as you watch this and you see him with this banana come out, that becomes a trance move. You've heard us talk about trances where you can't reach somebody. Eating is a trance-like state because my mouth is full, I can't talk to you. We're going to see him use a cigar the same way. I think this guy has got a lot of little hidden subroutines to give him power. Chase, what do you got?
I agree. And these little hidden subroutines are something that everybody's got, and just about everybody you'll ever meet. And when he's saying the women of proper age, there's an immediate transition to a guilty facial expression. Type those 3 words into Google really quick and look at some Google images of guilty facial expression. You'll see Anthony Weiner. You'll see the Bill Clinton stuff. You'll see all kinds of stuff. And his face goes right into it, and it's perfect. You'll see it right away. The chin tucks down, the lips pull together, the eyebrows go up. And when he says, I like girls that don't know much, then transitions into I'm just like Jesus, then I'm boring so they have to leave me, and then I'm sort of a playboy, and then I'm not a playboy at all, and you have to have manners when it comes to women. In one monologue there. And the banana here is, I think, is a pacifier and an adapter, and he's using movement much like grandiose people do during conversation to accomplish a 3-pronged approach here. This is distract, calm themselves down, and take ownership over self and the conversation. So it's a 3-pronged approach to this movement, adjusting socks and all this while somebody's talking. That's what's going on right here. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, look, everything is a distraction here. You've got the chaff of the banana going on there, okay? And yes, it is to pacify him, I believe. It's also there as a comic. There's nothing funnier than the banana. It's phallic. It's a bit of a ridiculous fruit. It's a crazy color as well. And of course, he's wearing that, crazy tracksuit, bold color, the jewelry, bold gold to not only give status, of course, but also to shine, to give people something else to look at, the glasses, so you can't quite see into his eyes. The way he'll land on certain phrases and certain stresses. Jimmy Savile was one of the biggest impersonations that any impersonator would be able to do. But interesting enough, him and Rolf Harris, who again turned out to be a serial offender. In fact, Jimmy Savile took Rolf Harris for a private tour of Broadmoor Hospital, the psychiatric hospital. I mean, there's a web here of extraordinary offenders going on. So chaffing with the banana there. So we know that he knows that this is going to be a tricky interview because, like any magician who's going to use smoke and mirrors, he's already loaded his banana. He's already got a loaded banana in his pocket, ready to go just in case. And he should know that it's going to be tough because Andrew Neil was an editor of a newspaper. So Andrew Neil possibly knows the rumors or the facts that are already going around and have been going around for decades around Jimmy Savile. Look, it's comic as well. It's a classic. Emmett Kelly, the great American clown with Ringling Brothers, one of his acts was to eat a raw cabbage and cry. If in doubt, if the act that he got was going badly wrong, wasn't getting the laughs, whip out a cabbage, eat it, cry. It's a winner. I think that he knows the same. If you whip out a banana and eat it, you're going to attract people's attention. You're going to get people back to where you need them. So he's a serial predator, therefore he's looking for innocence. And so there's that idea of I like the girls who don't know much. Any predator isn't looking for a fight. A predator is looking for people who have no power and therefore are likely not to have any agency whatsoever, like go to hospitals where people can't move because they've had such serious accidents and spinal injuries and they're kids that they just won't be able to fight back in any way whatsoever. This was, or maybe turn up at some morgues as well. And, he would volunteer to shift around bodies in the dead of night. There's nobody who can fight back less than a dead human being. So this is the kind of person we're dealing with. So again, he's hiding behind, just as you were saying there, Greg, that banter, that British banter, hiding behind that parrying and that jousting that's going on. And of course, it looks very normal to us for him to be doing that because, again, we got somebody Scottish having a bit of a banter with somebody English, Northern English, to be so not so much animosity, but still, it's fair to have a lot of strong banter with if you're English with somebody from Scotland. So it's all hidden in exactly the right cultural way that this audience will be laughing at what we now know to be somebody hiding the huge misdemeanors that they've been part of. Scott, what do you got on this one?
I think what we're seeing is like I think you guys were talking about earlier. On one side, at one point, he's the greatest guy in the world, and the other point, he's depraved, bad guy. And again, he blows this stuff up to make it go away. And when he talks, he keeps calling himself a gentleman during this. I mean, there's no. Everybody knows he's no gentleman. But this reminds me of like one of those 80s bands when they first started getting famous and they think they were real famous, but they're only famous in their town. The way they would act is exactly the way this guy is acting. Having been a record producer, I knew a lot of those bands, and they would all act just like this guy, like it was nothing. And that banana, I think, is part of him showing that he's rebellious because he's eating on TV. That's where I think his ego is taking him. I agree with you, Chase. I think this is narcissism. It's huge. I mean, he thinks he owns the world right now because he's not busted yet. So, which I don't know the story how it ends up with him, but I know he gets. Does he get in trouble for this, Mark?
He dies. He dies before. Yeah,
2011. Wow. He died. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh man!
And then the revelations come out.
Yep.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah. Scott, who was the most humble person you worked with as a record producer?
Gosh, there were quite a few of them. Mostly the most humble are the best musicians in the world, period. The best singers in the world, period. Jerry Douglas, best dobro player in the world. He's just I've known him longer than I haven't known him since I was a kid. Greatest guy in the world. So Alison Krauss, just sweet as she can be and just could not be any more concerned with fame or being one of the best singers on the planet than you would be about what's in my coffee cup or how good my coffee is. Cool. Doesn't care. So they're real. Quite a lot of them are actually really good people, But the metal bands, that's where you gotta you get those egos because it's all about egos and all, getting girls and all that. That's why they're in it. Most of them. Some are in it for the art and music. I'm sure. I didn't meet any of those, but I'm sure there are some in that.
You're going to get every metal fan now, writing down below. Yeah, but you don't know Maiden. Yeah. They're all really nice.
It's Ozzy. Yeah. Ozzy's the kindest.
But you know what? I always heard I never met him, but I always heard he was the greatest guy in the world.
I heard the same people.
Eddie Van Halen, didn't know him well, but when I'd see him, he'd say my name. But I don't know. He wouldn't. I think at some point, if I'd run up and kicked him, he wouldn't know who to tell the cops it was. But he was the nicest guy in the world. You'd think that those guys would be, nuts. But anyway, back to it. After the discussion about the number of women that he'd been with, that's when he starts talking about himself being a gentleman. You can't have it both ways. You're not a womanizer and a gentleman too. You can be the creepy guy who thinks he is and do that, or you can be a gentleman, one or the other. So I think that's kind of got away from him there. So, and Mark, is it banana or bananer?
I say banana. You may say something else. Yeah, I say banana.
Okay. I know I've heard Chase say banana a lot, and I was just wondering if we were all doing that now.
Well, the Brits will put an R after anything if you say the word "and" after it. So if Mark says banana and, it will have an R at the end.
Banana and. Yeah.
So does Boston.
Oh, Boston's the worst, man. There's this guy, one of my best friends, Paul Romano, and he wanted me to teach him how to speak Southern. And I said, well, say magic marker, because he would say magic marker.
Yeah.
And I'd say, no. And so I said, let's just go slow. Magic. And he'd go, magic. And I go, marker. And he'd go, marker. Couldn't do it. To this day, I don't think he can
That's funny.
Do an R. You know.
Did you guys notice when he started talking about Jesus, the whole chatter, everything in the room went dead. All of that laughter went away. All that laughter went away. That's it.
One of those tape replays.
He's always had an eye for the ladies. Young ones as well. When I say young, I mean, you know, the proper age. 16 upwards. And he's always had one. His philosophy, he would never get married because I don't think he could stick with a person more than 3 days. And I don't think he can still stick in with anybody more than 3 days.
Is he right? When it comes to women, you've got a short attention span?
No, women know too much. I'm all for girls that don't know too much. It's a different class, you see. When you are single, it's because of some reason that you like being single. Jesus didn't find any problem with it. I don't find any problem with it. A lot of the time, people say, what? You're still single, you never got married. Why didn't you get married? The answer is, I haven't the faintest idea.
But we don't believe that Jesus was quite a ladies' man, though you are, or have said you were.
No. He used to knock about with the ladies. It says so in the book. He went in the hooky house. He was talking to them in the hooky house. He was ducking and diving.
So you were like him too? You were doing the same
I'm not
thing?
like him at all. I'm just saying another famous person. He's a famous person. He was single. It's good enough for him. It's good enough for me.
But do you get bored after 3 days with the same female company as your friend was saying?
I'd stay with them for the rest of it. They get bored with me. I'm a very boring fella.
But if they get bored with you, or you get bored with them, or whatever, we're talking about a life, are we, in the 60s and 70s of lots of lovers, lots of female company?
Oh, that's a long time ago. I've forgotten now.
You can't remember how many?
No, the marks I've got. Are there any marks there? I don't know.
No, they've healed rather well.
They're healed. Yeah.
But have you had lots of female
I would hope so, because being alive a long time, I would have hoped that one would have had lots and lots of them.
But
I've got this terrible... unfortunately, no, you see. I've got this... And anyway, I never have been a grass. And a gentleman never grasses on ladies that is ever...
But we're not asking for names, we're just asking for the general principle.
Oh, so I mean...
We just want to know if you live this sort of playboy life of the DJ.
Yeah, give or take a few nice ladies. But I mean, you know, a gentleman doesn't ever speak of ladies. I don't know where you come from. I mean, I don't know what your circles are, but my circles, ladies are very... You don't grass on them. No.
All my mother ever taught me was not to eat while I was talking, but that was another issue.
Bananas weren't around in those days.
If you like this video, get the full body language breakdown and analysis on our main channel by clicking this video right here.